Some of you in the room right now, you are where you are, you're giving 60% when you have 120 in you. Why? Because you've never made a decision. There's those of you in this room, you already there. Your problem is this is stuff you don't want to give up to go. Listen to me, pound for pound, any agent in the room, pound for pound, motivational speaker, pound for pound, entrepreneur, pound for pound, athlete, pound for pound, weightlifter, pound for pound, whatever you do, I guarantee you when you do it, nobody can do it like you do it. The problem is you don't hardly do it.
Yep, we're back again. CFB Nation, you know what it is. It's CFBPrime. I'm your host, Nino Brown, and I got my buddy, Crain, 1/3 of Crain & Company, and as he would say, the best third of all.
Without a doubt. Without a doubt.
How we doing, my man? It's glad to have you back on again.
It's great to join you, Nino, as usual, and like everybody knows, man, I mean, football season, it really never ends. We're going through spring right now, but you blink twice, we're going to be in August, and that means September's coming, so I'm excited.
Oh, shout out to my mother, Dino. Is that the Flaming Dragon, he said?
No, I'm not. I'm the one that slays the Flaming Dragon. That's me. My brother's the Flaming Dragon. I'm the prince that slays him and gets the girl at the end.
I love it. We're going to get into a little bit of battling later on in the show, a couple of segues to it. But I'm going to hit you with the rapid fire, okay? 5 questions in the rapid fire. Give me your answer in 5 words or less.
God, Nino, I'm so bad at this game. 5 words or less. I'm going to try.
All right. Off the rip, Jarquez Hunter will finish as a top 5 SEC running back by the end of 2024 season.
If Auburn blocks well, I think, he has the capability to do it. To keep it to 5 answers less, if Auburn blocks well, Jarquez Hunter's good enough, as long as there's no distractions.
All right. Wide receiver Caleb Burton will lead the Auburn wide receiver room.
Let me introduce you to Cam.
I love it. That was good.
Not the old one. Not the old one.
Ooh, all right. If head coach Hugh Freeze starts out slow in 2024, his seat will get hot early.
There's always pressure at Auburn. There always is.
All right. Freshman safety Caleb Harris will be an instant impact to the Tigers secondary.
Not secondary, probably special teams. That's 5.
Okay.
I think there's some other guys. I'm excited about Laquan. There's a lot of young guys I'm excited about in Auburn secondary.
Absolutely. The loss of Cadillac Williams will be minimal with the addition of Derek Nix. Whew.
Minimal. Hope to break even.
Okay. All right. Well, it's that would seem like it stumped you a little bit, or you had to.
Well, trying to keep it in 5 words or less. That's the hardest part. It's
right.
not it's not the answer. It's the diluting it down to try 5. And consolidate what I want to say. Yeah.
Well, let's go. We're gonna start off this 5-round heavyweight fight. We're gonna piggyback off this last question. Derek Nix, the new running back coach, stated that he wants to make the Tigers a fundamentally scoring machine. 26.2 points per game last season was 74th in the country. And to quote my one of my favorite actors in Hollywood, Will Ferrell, what does that even mean? I don't know, but it sounds provocative. Talk to me. What does that say about the culture before him as well?
Well, when you look at what things that coaches say, there's a lot of coach speak that's involved in it. He gave it a very obvious answer. He just put it in kind of coaching terms. Yes, the quote unquote, OC, co-OC, whatever you want to call it. We know what Hugh Freeze is going to do from a play calling standpoint and a game plan standpoint. He's talked about he's going to be way more involved in it. Look, you want to blow the bulbs out of the scoreboard. And the way you become a fundamental scoring machine, well, it's pretty simple, Nino. It's fundamentals. It's doing the little things right. It's not making the mistakes. Because in a game that's decided by inches, when you have the level of athlete that we see in the SEC and at a place like Auburn, when you play, the non-conference that they do, it comes down to doing so many little things right that it adds to a big number in the scoreboard. So look, what's he supposed to come in there and be like, well, I just hope I'm as good as the last coach, or I just hope we do good. No, look, he gave you an answer that while it may seem a little bit coach speakish, I think it's the right answer. And look, Derek Nix knows offense. And I think he's going to be a valuable asset to the Auburn coaching staff and Auburn University in general.
16 years at Ole Miss going through.
And he was a hell of a player, Nino.
Yes.
He was a hell of a running back too. Like I remember watching Derek Nix do his thing, but yeah, he knows the lay of the land from a recruiting standpoint. Listen, Cadillac, I think maybe not as much as the schematical and fundamental, but just what he meant to Auburn, his understanding of what Auburn is and how Auburn can thrive. And then that brand name, Cadillac Williams, is still a household brand name for a lot of young players. But look, Derek Nix is not a guy to be looked over. He knows the recipe. He knows how to get it right. And he's seen pretty much everything that you're going to see as a player and as a coach.
I love Cadillac. I want to see what Nix gets out of Hunter if he can get him to take that next step this season.
Yeah, well, look, it's catching the ball out of the backfield routinely, right? It's running back it's got the word running in it, but that's a third or a fourth of what the position really is. It's pass protection. You look at the guys that get drafted the highest in the NFL, they're not just guys that can hit the 70-yard home run.
Oh no,
they can do that. That understand how to pick up blitzes, not just from a physical standpoint of pass pro, but a mental standpoint of understanding how the offensive line is looking at the box, right? Who's the hot? When do I go? Am I getting green dogged? Like just the things that you have to know to be able to operate at a high level.
Yeah, I mean, in this day and age, most NFL teams are going with a 2-3 back system. For you to be on the field 2 to 3 downs, you have to know how to pass, bro. You can't let your quarterback, the franchise guy getting murdered out there because you decided to, I'm going to slide off to the left here.
Well, it's just like any job. If I'm hiring, I want to hire somebody that does everything pretty well. I don't want a one-trick pony. It may be a hell of a trick, just like in Major League Baseball. You may be able to throw the hell out of a fastball. It may be 98 to 100. But, buddy, you at least better have something in the bag that's a little bit slower to keep guys off balance. It's the same thing at the running back position.
I love it. Let's get into this next one. We kind of touched on it a little bit. I know my guy in the chat here, D now, he's a big fan of Cam Coleman. 6'3", 185 pounds. He's already projected to be a future first-round pick. Cam Coleman brings juice to Auburn, something that room has been missing for a very long time. Is it possible that Coleman could be a better year one wide receiver than Ohio State Buckeyes Jeremiah Smith?
It's when you look at Jeremiah and Cam, there are some similarities. You look at the offensive system that Ohio State looks like they're, going to continue to go to and maybe kind of open it up even a little bit more. I wouldn't be shocked either way. I'm not going to put a ceiling on either one of these guys. It's not a cop-out, but, young guys performing at this high of a level, and when you go play at Ohio State, you go play at Auburn, you're on the biggest stage a lot of the weekends, and you're expected to perform even as an 18-year-old. But if we're looking at all the physical traits, and I think the mental traits too, you have to have a certain swag and a certain, what I call positive arrogance about you to play at this level, especially at the wide receiver position, because, what can he not do? Like the question is, again, I'll go back to what I said about Jarquez Hunter. How well do you block on the outside? Can you become a complete wide receiver? Can you be mature enough as a young guy to understand it's not my job just to score points. It's my job to help the offense score points. That includes maybe balling out and becoming a decoy on some plays. So maybe Jay Fair or Burton or some of these other guys, maybe opening up the seam a little bit for Rivaldo Fairweather because that safety is nervous about you in 2-man on third and passing. It's those little things. And look, it may take some time, right? You don't want to have to be in a position where you're relying on 18-year-olds, honestly, to do anything, let alone go out and save your job by playing well. But if God put it in anybody, he put it in Jeremiah Smith and Cam Coleman. And I'm excited to go watch those guys compete and learn and grow. And once they understand how to practice at this level, right? Being in college and having all the even more pressure than what you did when you were the big man on campus doing your, own personal road to glory there at Central Phoenix City for Cam. But I would not be shocked either way, Nino. I would not be shocked.
He's obviously the day one X for Auburn. You kind of alluded to it. Does he lead the room? I mean, we had an injury, right? Isn't it someone to get injured today?
Well, look, it's something where you want a bunch of shooters, right? In basketball. Yeah. It's hard to guard. It's hard to double everybody. You can't do it. So, if you're Cam Coleman and you talk about being the leader in that room, a lot of it is the mental side, right? And it's not just going out there believing in yourself. It's the playbook. You heard Hugh Freeze talk about, hey, he's learning how, the timing of these RPOs and things, when to get my head around, how to really truly read leverage in what I'm doing. How are you on option routes? It's not just going in running a 9 route or a vertical and just, beating somebody at birth, which Cam Coleman's going to do a lot of, but it's those little things. It's getting in and out of breaks, not tipping pitches, as we used to say. That's what's going to determine if he's a true number 1 wide receiver. Not only if he can, not just if he can catch the ball. We know he can do that. Hell, I'm more worried about the guy throwing it to him than him catching it.
Oh, don't worry. We're going to get to that too. Trust me. Real quick, stay in the wide receiver room. Why am I not hearing everything about Thompson? Why is it he's kind of...
Well, look, and some guys are on different paths. It takes longer for some guys, and you never know the final product that you're going to get. I think Perry Thompson has all the physical gifts. He's just really raw.
Okay.
I think he's, from a development standpoint, and listen, it's not like you got to put a battery in this guy. Once he figures it out, he's going to be a problem. I mean, he's a power forward playing wide receiver. I mean, he's really a big tight end out there that can run and can sink his hips. But a lot of his stuff, he's just raw. And you don't want to rush that too much where you ruin a guy. We've seen that multiple times. He needs to go at the pace that behooves him down the stretch, because that will eventually lead to Auburn being able to have more success, as opposed to just throwing a guy out there in the fire and all of a sudden him freaking out and going Jodie Foster and going to hide in his panic room for a year and a half and then transfer into, Wake Forest or something. I don't know, but I just think he's more raw than Cam is from a developmental standpoint.
Yeah, we don't want him pulling the misery out there and smashing people with mallets. You know what I'm saying?
No, I don't want you. What? Yeah. Why is Kathy Bates in my bedroom with a mallet staring at me pissed?
Yeah, you don't want none of that. I guess he's kind of on the same path as the class before him, Akeem Williams out in Florida State. Really, really raw. Has all the traits, all the talent in the world. Just gotta crawl before you can walk.
That's exactly right. And I would rather you take time to learn how to crawl and not go out there and run like a baby giraffe.
Yeah, all over yourself. Yeah, I'm with you.
All falling down, crying.
You wanted to talk QBs. Let's get there. Now let's talk about your boy, Uncle Rico, aka Payton Thorne. Right?
My boy.
What's the vibe right now out of over there in spring? Has he taken the next step in development? I mean, what's going on here?
Well, anytime, look, the word stability is worth its weight in gold. Pretty much in everything, but especially in college football right now. When you look at the transfer portal, it feels like it's just a revolving door of new guys, especially at the quarterback position. He's been at Auburn a year now, right? The terminology is not going to change. He knows where everything is. Guys know he's a leader. They've watched him operate in big games. Now, he still has a lot to prove, and he's going to be judged on those big games. He's not going to be judged what he does against La Monroe, and that's shout out to my boy Bryant Vincent, who got the head coaching job out of there. Mad love for my boy BV. I'm going to be rooting for y'all. But the thing with Payton Thorne is he should be a lot more comfortable. And I know he had a lot of reps at Michigan State. He had a lot of high-pressure snaps at Michigan State. But there is a comfortability that comes with returning in year 2. And Hugh Freeze has said right now he has the lead. He's being pushed by Hank and Holden. I keep telling Auburn fans, listen, worst-case scenario is Walker White goes out there and is the starter on day 1. That means nothing went right. You talk about throwing a guy to the wolves too early. This is a plant you want to cultivate, because I think it will blossom into something very special, speaking of Walker White. But with Payton Thorne, is he going to be able to, in big games, make some of these throws that he didn't make last year? And listen, he didn't have a ton of help. I thought the pass protection was better than what people let on, but there were a lot of drops. There weren't a lot of guys outside of a couple out there making plays for him against Georgia's DBs and Bama's DBs, right? And against Texas A&M. But he's got to be able to stand in there and not stare at the rush, which he knows that. I know that. The only time you should stare at the rush is during sorority week, and we all know how that goes down. But when I look at Payton Thorne, I feel like there's a quiet confidence, because he should only get better. The worry is, do we already know really who Payton Thorne is, though? Like, has he already reached that ceiling? How much room for growth is there? And staring at the rush, Nino, that's a tough habit to kick, man. Like,
you don't want to be a deer in the headlights, though.
Say it again.
You don't want to be the deer in the headlights. I feel like
listen. Nobody wants to, but you wanted to be the quarterback. Like, you wanted to be the quarterback. You chose to do. Nobody said. Right. Nobody held you at gunpoint and said, Payton Thorne, you go be the quarterback while Dallas Turner rushes the passer. And again, I'm not putting it all on him, but in those moments where he's got to stay in there or he's got to get out and go, that's what's going to define his. Because his success level. Because I'll be honest with you, most plays, even big plays, don't wind up how they were drawn up. It doesn't always go to plan.
Yeah.
It's those guys. Sometimes you can't always just be Bob Ross. Sometimes you got to be
Happy little
Jackson
trees.
Pollock.
Yeah. No, I get that. You're right. You're gonna improvise. I'm with it. But like, he was like check down Charlie. I think he had an ADOT of like 8.2 last year. I mean, most of his stuff was dunk and dink here and there. I mean, there was no. What do you have? 10 big time throws all season?
Yeah, and listen, that's because of a combination of things. But at the end of the day, you are the leader.
Right.
You are the quarterback. You are the one outside of the center who touches the ball every single snap. Again, you signed up for this.
Mhm.
You're always going to get too much credit when it goes good, and you're always going to get too much blame when it goes bad. But the crown is heavy, right? And if you go to a place like Auburn and you go to these big time places, and really not even just big time places, everybody on that team understands what the most important position is on the field, and that's at quarterback.
I'm with you, okay? But I got to know, when do the White Walkers come looking for the one-eyed raven that is Payton Thorne? When, like, at what point is he? Walker White may not be fully there, but he's got to be damn near close to be pushing this kid if he doesn't take the step.
Well, it's, again, you've heard a lot of these reps, and you thought it was going to be this way as Walker White gets used to, being in college, and you can already see some good things when you look at some of the clips from him at practice and from what I've heard. But, I think it's going to be either Hank Brown, or Holden Garner. I look at Holden Garner. I don't know how you run an RPO offense with a quarterback that really can't run. I've watched that before. Jared Stidham was such a good thrower of the ball that he could get away with it somewhat. I don't see Holden Garner fitting in the style of offense that Hugh Freeze feels like now that he's in year 2 that he has to run. I think Hank Brown, and you saw a little bit in the bowl game, that's kind of an anomaly. It's hard to just go off that, but you saw some fight. I think as far as Payton Thorne's leash, because I think that's what you're asking me.
Mm-hmm.
If you're getting a lot of the same meal that you got all of last year, Auburn's going to come for a change. Like they are. If it's just the same old thing. Now look, then we're going to get into schedule and stuff like that. Auburn starts out 4-0, and maybe it's not kind of like they did last year a little bit, where it's not the sexiest on offense, but you're getting away with it. The knives won't be out. But Payton Thorne will be judged on how he does against Oklahoma at home, how he does against Alabama, how he does against Georgia, in those games that just mean more. Not that all of them aren't important, and the players can't look at them as this game's important and this game's not. But if you don't see, I think even a big jump in those first 4 games that Auburn should win, including Cal at home, or some sort of progression, right? Then people are going to be worried, and that's going to stack so much pressure on week 5 when Oklahoma comes to town that he better ball out. Like everybody knows that. So again, a lot of it is, are you seeing progressions? Are you seeing a more refined product, or are you seeing the same movie over and over again, which, nobody wants to do, unless it's The Dark Knight, which that's the greatest movie ever.
We don't need no Patrick Swayze seeing ghosts. Okay. We don't need any of that.
No.
Right.
Or it's going to be Patrick Swayze from Roadhouse and you're getting your ass thrown out of the bar.
Yeah, but we don't want the watered down version now.
God, watching Conor McGregor just walk around smiling the whole time. God, I was super let down. You could tell how good of an actor Jake Gyllenhaal was because how bad of an actor Conor McGregor was.
100%, 100%. All right, let's get into some dogs, some.
And as an actor, Nino, I can say that.
Oh,
as an actor, now I can say that. Lady Ballers, check it out.
100%. Go get it. If you don't laugh at that movie, you have no sense of humor. That's all.
Yeah.
All right, let's talk about some dogs, some hogs, some guys that get down and dirty, right? Eugene Asante, Jalen McLeod, those are your guys. So that was obviously the hogs that lead the front 7, causing all the ruckus. But there's some youngins and there's some guys that got to earn them stripes coming in. I want to talk some positional battles. Let's talk defensive tackle. Gage Keys.
Yep.
Trill Carter. The name alone just speaks wonders. But he's coming in from Texas, right? And you have Gage. I believe Gage is also a transfer. What's it looking like in this battle here?
I mean, I feel even better. Last year, I think Auburn's defensive line, and I know you asked me about tackles, but in general, they really didn't have a bunch of pass rushers. McLeod got hurt, really turned it on when he was able to get in there. He kind of proved himself. I think Keldrick Falk is a guy that's going to continue to come on. I think he has a chance to be a top 2-round pick in the NFL draft if he keeps delivering. But on the inside, Jason Jones, a guy that I feel like feels the pressure this year a little bit. I think you're going to get a little bit of a different version of Jason Jones last year, a little bit more active, maybe causing a little more havoc from inside of the pocket, which, we always talk about the edge line of scrimmage, defensive ends and tackles. I'm not a geometry major, but I know the quickest point between, two places is a straight line, and that quarterback's a lot he's a lot more straight in line with the three tech and the nose. But Gage Keys, a guy that I know Auburn fans are excited about. Trill Carter, you mentioned the name. I'm just going to believe in it. A transfer, but I think he's going to provide you some good depth. And you look at some young guys. Malik Blockton is a guy I'm interested to watch how he develops and grows. Darren Reed Jr. is another guy that I find kind of interesting. But look, it's just like offensive line. Like, we're going to talk about the starters, and that's great. But you guys out there know as well as I do, whether in the chat or Nino, it's not about your first 22. It's really about your first 65. Absolutely. That's where you win games. Because it's a battle of attrition. Somebody's going down.
Facts.
Somebody's going down. Somebody may not go down for the whole year. You hope to God that doesn't happen. But somebody is going to get hurt. And do you have guys? You typically want 8 guys on the offensive line that you trust, right? Because you think a couple guys got hurt. Mm-hmm. Defensive line, depending on what you run, whether it's a 3-4, whether it's a 4-3, obviously it's going to kind of dictate, the way the depth chart works. But I mean, hell, you want as many as you can on that side. And I think Auburn not only has depth, but has quality depth. And I still think that there's some good competition that's going on within that defensive line. So that balance of those two, I think are you're going to see it yield fruit for Auburn. And it wasn't like Auburn was horrible against the run all last year.
Right.
Like, there was some time. I mean, I thought the defense stood up a lot. I think the defense kept Auburn in a lot more big games, obviously, than the offense did. It's the third downs, right? Like that's where Auburn, and it's not just getting there, it's getting guys on the ground. Not that you're going to get them on the ground every time, but it's moving guys off their spots. And, Auburn last year, I coached DBs for almost 7 years. Look, we can't, even if it's 2-man, we can't cover guys for 6-7 seconds, man. Like, it's just not going to work, not consistently. So getting to the quarterback for Auburn this year is going to be the infinity stone of that defense being able to make big plays. Because I tell you what, Nino, you can not say Auburn's going to have an average secondary, but they're young and they're unproven in some spots. It's hard to hide an average defensive line with a great secondary. It's a whole hell of a lot easier to hide an average secondary with a great defensive line. And I think if you're Auburn, you've got to kind of use that push-pull, and that's got to be what takes you home.
I'm with it 100%. If you get there and you're attacking and you're only giving the QB less than 3 seconds to throw the ball, it makes your DBs look phenomenal because they're never put in a position to kind of hurt themselves.
That's true. I mean, you're speeding up the clock. You speed up the clock, people, spin out at the quarterback position. So it helps guys out, makes them more confident, makes them more aggressive in man coverage, but you also got to be smart. Look, man, if it's 3rd and 7, we got to know where the sticks are. If you run a 5-yard hitch, that's great. We'll get you in 4th and 2 and make you make a tough decision. Right.
Yeah, exactly. Keep in front. That what I hated was like people started to like kind of midway through the season like badmouth Jalen Simpson. I'm like, he can only cover the guy for so long.
Auburn couldn't get to the passer.
So like, what is he supposed to do?
And Ron Roberts, man, he was dialing up. I mean, Hogwarts potions to get guys back there. He was bringing guys from the southern border to get back there. Like he did everything you possibly could do, including disguising and bluffing and marrying coverages and doing things like that. It's just when you can't get to the quarterback, you're bringing a butter knife to a sword fight, man.
Right. Exactly. All right. Let's talk about another defensive position I want to talk about in a battle, and that would be linebacker. We talked about Asante being the guy. He's obviously the dude. Austin Keys or the transfer here coming over, Dorian Mazza Jr. Which guy do you think is going to be to take over that position?
Well, I think you're going to see a rotation. Obviously, Eugene Asante is going to be a guy they asked to do a lot. They're going to move him all around the field. It's going to be a Where's Waldo situation when teams are playing against Auburn, trying to find where Asante is, because he's just a big time playmaker and he gets it, and I think he's got that dog in him. Austin Keys, I think, is going to be the guy they roll out there first. You look at the experience. Yeah. We talked about Payton Thorne, another year in the system, right? I know there's been a shakeup at the defensive coordinator spot, but Austin's been around so long that, it's the terminology, I think, is the biggest thing. He knows what he's seeing. He's just, with his size, he has got to win the mental battle early in the box to be able to be effective when you're running around Siberian cave trolls, which is what you're doing as a linebacker in the SEC. I mean, just look at these guys. They'll blot out the sun. Now, as far as Mazzi Jr., he's a guy I know they're counting on. He's a guy that does have some experience. I haven't seen enough of him Nino, to really give you a true eval or put him over Austin Keys. From what I've heard is that, he's hit the ground running. I mean, look, and I think DeMarcus Riddick's a young guy too to watch out for that, is a big time recruit they flipped from Georgia. I think he's going to be kind of a little bit of a hammerhead. They may run him in there to bash things up a little bit while he learns to see it right and not false step and do those little things and read his keys. But I feel good about Auburn. I feel good about the linebacker position, a little bit better than what some other people think, because I think Austin Keys is really going to show you one of the reasons the coaching staff last year was so excited that they were able to get him.
I like Dorian as a depth piece or as a rotational guy because he's an ACC linebacker coming out of Duke, right? So he's coming over from. They're fast. ACC linebackers they do well in coverage, right? So he can drop back and he
could be a cheetah package guy, Nino.
Yes.
He could be a guy that goes, you put him in passing situations. Especially again, I'll bring up 2-man, which I think is the best coverage in the world when it's third and passing. They're going to throw it. He's a guy that you feel a little bit better about if they motion the back out or something like that.
Yes.
He's not going to go out there, and it's not going to be the obvious mismatch that everybody's looking at. Now, also coming from Duke and Mike Elko, he's going to be coached well. Right. He's going to be coached really, really well. So whether it's third down and passing, whether it's blitz packages, because of his speed, his ability to kind of turn the corner, bring him on stunts, bring him from depth, walk him up to the line, play a game of twister with him. He's kind of a Swiss Army piece, a little bit like Asante is. Right. I think there's some similarities there, even though Eugene, I think, has got a little more thump.
He brings the hammer. But I feel like Miles Jr. can be that lightning speed. So
he's a good piece. He'd be a nice piece on the chessboard.
All right. Last one I want to talk about in the defensive side. Simpson's gone. Pritchett's gone. Whether it be a DB, safety, whoever it's going to be. You brought in the transfer in Jeremy Thompson from Texas. I want to know, is it going to be Thompson or is it going to be Caleb Wooden that's going to fill that role?
Well, it's hard for me not to put a Wooden in there after what, Colby was able to do at Auburn. You've seen the way those guys have been able to play. I think it's going to be a fight. I do think Thompson wins out at the end, but this is going to be a rotation. The guy that I'm probably the most excited to see is the JUCO kid, Laquan Robinson. Okay. His tape to me, and again, they're going to probably have him, not at they probably won't have him at the free. That's probably going to be where Lee is. But when you look at Laquan, I mean, I think he's a guy that's very rangy. Yeah. I think he's a guy that can absolutely bring the hammer. I'm worried about him and target. I think he's somewhat of a more athletic Smoke Monday. I think his hips are a little bit better. Now, mentally, Smoke got himself thrown out of a lot of games. I think Laquan's got to be able to find that balance of, listen, I'm going to knock your teeth through the back of your throat, but I also want to be able to play in this game and not miss the first half of the next.
Yeah, you got to be able to dial it back a little bit. You know what I'm saying? I like Thompson. I think he's a dude. Right now, what they're saying is Laquan's going to play what would that be? It's not the free, so they have it as a W.
Well, it's look the way they typically, and if you look at the depth chart, some people call it different. The free safety, Jaren's when you're going to put this guy in cover one, it's basically your strong, right? Okay. Your down safety.
That's right.
Guys call it a million different things.
Put him in the box,
just like they call the nickel the star,
right?
Or
the Mike,
the bandit, or like just everybody has different names for it. It's kind of like what's cool, today. I've heard. I mean, you got boundary. I even hear them call nickels the slot corner, which I think is just such a waste of time having to say that many words. Just say nickel.
Yeah.
Just say nickel, man. Or star, or wolf, right? Or dwarf, or whatever you're calling them.
Yeah. Too many words. That's not necessary. All right. Let's hit a temp check. We're going to talk scheduling. Could a slow start to the 24th season, 3-3, maybe 3-5. Like I said, lead to Hugh Freeze getting the heat turned up. Could the Kentucky Wildcats game be the temp check test for Freeze?
Well, you feel like going into year two, every game's a temp check when you coach at a place like Auburn, coming off, a first year and where you were figuring it out as well as everybody else. And everybody kind of knew, what he inherited from the Brian Harsin era. I think, if you're going to start out 3-3 and I need to pull up the schedule and look at it, depends on the 3-for-3. I think you got to start out at least 4-0.
So
I think you got to go ahead.
I got Alabama A&M at home. Right, so that should be a dub, right?
God, I hope so, Nino.
If not, call it a day. Wrap it up. It's over. This next one's not a guarantee in my eyes. Cal at home.
ACC Cal on the and from Berkeley to the Atlantic coast. Listen, I tell you what, another guy. I know we're going to talk about offense. I think one of Auburn's most explosive playmakers came from Cal with the Samuel Jackson. I'm telling you, man, this kid's a problem.
Okay.
This kid is a problem at wide receiver. I think they may have some things with him at quarterback where he's kind of a wildcat, a little bit version of it where he can throw it somewhat. But listen, you got to beat Cal at home. Like Ott's gone, I believe.
No, he's there. He's still there.
Oh, he's still there?
He's still there.
Okay, that's one you got to worry about. I'm surprised he didn't hit the transfer portal, to be honest.
Yeah.
But that's one you got to win if you're Auburn. You've got to start out 2-0 at home, year 2, and you need to look good.
You play 4 at home in a row.
I know. That's why you got to start out 4-0.
Yeah.
Actually 5, right? No.
Oh, yeah,
4.
Oklahoma.
It's 5.
Oklahoma
at home, yeah.
So, I mean, New Mexico should be a win as well. Arkansas, I mean, if you don't win that, it looks like Taylor Green's going to be the QB1 over there.
I don't believe he can throw the ball. Like you've got to beat this Arkansas team at home. I think Sam Pittman's in trouble this year, and I
thought he was in trouble last year.
Well, he was. I think he just they're waiting for that buyout. That's what I think. I mean, hell, if you're Arkansas right now, you're more worried about the basketball coach. If we're going to be honest, but
hey, did you ever see a world where Bobby Petrino would be back?
You know what? It's just amazing.
You know what I mean?
It's just amazing, right? It's like, what, that guy will never, ever coach here again.
Come
now
on,
they're
back.
like, listen, second chances.
It's all right, Bobby.
This is a place of redemption.
It's family,
Yeah, listen, just keep them off the motorcycles, and we're good to go. But no, you got to beat Arkansas at home.
All right, so then here it comes, September 28th. You know what I mean? At home against, at the time, right now ranked number 14 Oklahoma, and then the following week is Georgia, and then you have a bye. But then it doesn't get much easier after that.
No, it never does, Nino. It never does.
So this is what I'm saying. If you get blown out by Jackson Arnold, okay, which I know he's a 5-star, he's got ceilings through it could be Empire State Building high, but he's still in his first season of being a starter.
And this will be his first SEC road game. And you're walking into hell, buddy, with your Jordan Hare.
So
here's the way I look at it. What'll happen is if Auburn starts out 4-0, all right, you're going to see that hype train start to get going a little bit, okay? And a lot of it depends on how Payton Thorne looks and what type of 4-0 it is. But you're going to have people saying, listen, they still really haven't played anybody. People aren't going to believe in Arkansas early. We'll find out more against Oklahoma. Jackson Arnold is unbelievably talented. He's got the skill set to do it. But it is going to take time, and there are going to be up and downs with young quarterbacks. This is what I keep telling Tennessee fans about Nico, right? Nico is incredible. He's going to be an incredible player. But just like anybody that's playing a new young quarterback, you got to become a surfer. You've got to ride the wave. You're going to have to ride the highs. You're going to have to, eat it sometimes. I don't know surfing terminology, but, you're going to have to let a wave pass every now and then. Coming into Jordan Hare, that's going to be one of those high-pressure moments for him. And you're going to find out sometimes, and I watched Matt Leinart do this at USC, and I'm not saying Jackson Arnold's Matt Leinart. They brought in this young left-handed quarterback, right, that was kind of hyped up, not really, and he just didn't realize how big of the moment he was in, and they beat Auburn to sleep. Now, it helped that he had Reggie Bush and all these other aliens running around on that USC team. I don't think Oklahoma has that, but you get in a situation where I think it's going to be one of two outcomes. Either it's going to go really good for Jackson Arnold or it's going to go really ugly. And if you're Auburn, this is one of the games where the fans can have a huge effect. And if they beat Oklahoma and then you go 5-0, the pressure's going to be on whenever you play Georgia at Auburn, but you go and lose on the road against a Georgia team that's probably going to be number 1 in the country, maybe number 2, we'll see, that returns a quarterback. It's there. You got to buy after that. 5-1 at that stretch. You will not find an Auburn fan that is upset about 5-1 if they beat Oklahoma and then go lose on the road at Georgia. You're almost playing with house money a little bit.
Oh, that's fine. I agree with you there, but here's what my thought process is, because I have about this much confidence in Payton Thorne, because he had 2 elite receivers, and Coleman and Jaden Reed, and you couldn't get it done. You had to leave Michigan State. You weren't going to get much better than that. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
So I have no faith in him. But if you get blown out by Oklahoma.
Oh, if you get blown out at home by Oklahoma, are we talking about like hot seat? Like,
well, I'm talking about pulling. This is my thing. This is the coach and the QB. They pull. they go to Georgia after getting blown up by Oklahoma, he's going to be seeing ghosts. We know that.
Yeah.
They put up a 49-10 showing. You get an off week. It's Jon Snow returning with the White Walkers, and we're coming.
It's so you think? Well, look, I mean, that would be when you started to see that move. Now, would that be Walker White? I don't know. I mean, now, Nino, you can play like half the season and not have the red shirt. So hell, Walker White may have 50 reps, by the time you get to game 5 with some of the teams Auburn's playing early. But, you obviously hope, if you're rooting for Auburn, that doesn't happen.
Right.
But Hugh Freeze is a guy that's not afraid to make a change. I mean, look what he did with the coaching staff after 1 year.
Right. But because after that, you got Missouri, Kentucky, which will be like that's why I say something's got to happen, I think, for Payton Thorne in that 4-game stretch.
That Missouri game, and that's on the road, I believe, right?
Oh, yeah, that's on the road. And then the Kentucky game's on the road.
Yeah, great. So, I mean, if you look at it, pretty much best case, best case is you go undefeated. Everybody knows that. But let's go realistic best case, right? Like the diet best case.
Yeah.
You're 5-1, right, going into the bye week.
Okay.
All right, you beat Oklahoma at home, went on the road, lost at Georgia. That's going to probably
expected. Yeah.
That's not going to shock anyone as bad as Auburn wants to beat Georgia. You go and lose on the road at Missouri. Let's say you go lose at Missouri. Now you're 5-2. People start getting the feeling like, man, maybe this is starting to be like last year. Once the competition gets better, we kind of start falling apart. That Kentucky game, Nino, there's a huge difference between 6-2 and 5-3, especially with what Auburn has down the stretch. Because if you get to 6-2, and I know you're going to go through the rest of the schedule, there's some navigating room to possibly get to 9, right? And if you get to 9, that's a huge win in year 2 for Auburn and Hugh Freeze and the bridge because you feel like this is the bridge year. You got to go on the road to Bama. You got to go on the road to Georgia. And then the next year, so year 3 under Hugh Freeze, you go win 9, you get some momentum, you get them at home. And now all of a sudden, because look, 9-3, Nino.
It's not. It sounds a lot better.
But you're sniffing that 12 in the SEC, depending on what happens.
Oh yeah, absolutely.
You're sniffing it. So again, Auburn doesn't have to be the conversation this year. They just need to be in the conversation this year. And that doesn't mean even at the end, but at some point there needs to be a lot of because it's not getting any easier. I've seen the chat, D-Rock Irish, I think you're 100% right. Like if you're looking at the SEC didn't get worse by adding in Texas and Oklahoma. Right. I'm glad they got rid of divisions. I think that's the whole point of scheduling, is to be able to play everybody at home and away through a 4-year period. So, yeah, I mean, you need to show that progress, but you get to 6-2 because after that, Nino, list who they got after that if you don't know.
After the Kentucky, you play at home against Vanderbilt. That's a W. It's an off game, so they may, you know what I mean? Well, they'll probably
7-2. People are looking around.
And then you get, Louisiana Monroe at home.
BV, I love you. Like I said, BV, I love you. But for this day, I'm not going to love you.
Yeah. We're enemies.
I'll love you right after. Yeah. So all of a sudden, 8-2, and now checkbooks are pulling out.
You get Aggies at home. You get A&M at home. It's different than going to College Station, my friend.
Nino.
I know.
Hey, you may be right about this Kentucky game.
You
may be right about this Kentucky game. That may be the hanger kind of on the season. Because look, you can beat this A&M team, even though I think Mike Elko at A&M is going to be a problem. Because I think they're actually going to not be the belle of the ball anymore, which they don't. They don't need to be the prettiest girl in the red dress at the party. They need to be the low key, good looking girl that really doesn't know how to dress up. She just wants to go hang out in the farm and just do other stuff. Yeah, that's exactly right. But looks really good.
Yeah.
Walks down the stairs. You're like, oh my God. That type. So all of a sudden you're looking at 9-2. And then, I don't have to be a genius. You got a trip to T-Town.
Yeah.
To probably maybe get a place in the playoff. Can you imagine that?
And I think if they're in that position, I think Caleb DeBoer is screwed. Okay. I think he's set up to fail. Ryan Grubb said, my friend, I am out ski. I'm going to let you take this one on your own. You're the mastermind. If you think so, I'm the guy. We're going to see how good you are on your own. I don't know this second portal, this late portal window, I think could have some big implications on Alabama.
Well, look, I just give Kalen DeBoer credit for having the balls to take the job after
Yeah.
Nick Saban. I mean, look, and they're not paying him in shekels and ribbons.
He's getting paid. Yeah.
He's getting paid a lot of money, but the standard is not going to dip at Alabama. Like these people have been getting fed damn near perfection. I know they haven't won it the last 3 years, but I keep saying the tenure of Kalen DeBoer, I think, will be defined by the first time it goes wrong. Like, what happens if you go up to Camp Randall and, speaking about Siberian cave trolls, like they're up there jumping around, and then you get Georgia the next week. Like, look, they were ready to fire, Nick Saban after you took a lacrosse player down to USF and beat him. Like, it just so, I look, it could be because you'd think Bama would be in it, right? You would definitely think they would at least be in the conversation of making the playoff. You get an Iron Bowl.
Hold on. I can't let you walk away that easy with that.
Well,
statement.
I mean, I don't think it's a crazy thing to say that Alabama was probably going to be in the mix at the end of the year.
Who's quarterbacking?
Jalen Milroe. Jalen Milroe's a problem,
He is, but he doesn't fit that system.
Well, you've seen what DeBoer said. Like, he's going to mold the system because he's smart. And this is what he said down the Senior Bowl when you were down there with me, is that he's going to mold the system to fit the personnel. You have to do that early, right? You can't. These guys that go in there and they're like, one of our co-hosts, David Cohn, 6'7", pro-style quarterback at Michigan, goes there when Lloyd Carr's there. Lloyd Carr retires. Rich Rod comes in.
Oh boy,
wants to run a totally different style system. Because I love David Cohn, but he is not Denard Robinson, right? And it just, you need time to be able to mold what you're doing to what you have. And then you go full go on what you want to do once you've brought in the players that you need to run your style. And I think Kalen DeBoer is smart. I don't think you win as many games as Kalen DeBoer has won without understanding, listen, I may have to mold the clay to a little bit of a different shape than what I want early. And if he doesn't, you're going to see the Jalen Milroe that we saw against Texas. You're going to see the Jalen Milroe that we saw against Michigan in some spots. He does not need to drop back and throw the ball 45 times a game. No. He's not Michael Penix Jr. He does not need to be Michael Penix Jr. He needs to be Jalen Milroe. A chef is only as good as his ingredients.
Well said, my friend. But to return back to my Alabama point, with that team against Georgia week 5.
Oh, it's tough.
Even against South Carolina this year. I know they're going with a freshman QB, but I don't trust. Hey, that defense is good. Offensively, where's the weapon? Show me the weapon that Alabama has offensively.
Oh, it's Alabama. Look, is Alabama going to be the best Alabama team that we've ever seen this year? No. But, Nino, you know this. They're still really talented. Like, they're still really, really talented and really, really deep. Last year, Isaiah Bond's a guy that did leave, right? That ended up going to Texas, I believe, which that was a big loss. But Alabama always have some guys ready to get off the spaceship.
No, you're right. But I mean, they lost the tight end. I mean, they lost a lot.
Yeah, but they've been losing a lot for a long time.
True,
you know what I'm saying?
True.
Like,
but
nobody's lost
usually.
more than those guys have.
Yeah. For me, it's more of like those guys there were there because of Nick and what Nick could bring.
I don't think that's wrong. And now Kalen's got to have guys go there because of Kalen. Now, I do think Alabama still has so much cachet that he can feed off that, that brand, right, for a decent amount of time. I think that's what you've seen right already in recruiting. That's why keeping guys like Freddie Roach was so big. A guy I got a ton of respect for. And the kind of the way that DeBoer's operated, keeping some guys, bringing in some new guys. He understands who can do what, who he needs. He needs to have guys that can tell him no. So at some point, coach, hey, we probably don't need to do this. Like that's a big deal for some coaches. Yeah. You don't need yes men. You also don't want guys that are going to, Brutus Caesar you when you're turning around. But my back. But no, look, it's he's got a tall task, right? But he knew what it was when he signed up for it. And you've got to be able to, it's what I said about Angel Reese. You got to be able to ride the positive stuff when it's positive. And you got to be able to take the negative stuff when it's negative. That's the price of admission. That's the cover charge.
Yeah, there's no Forrest Gumps here. I just want to run.
Yeah, no. That's Not anymore.
No, you know what I mean? It'll be interesting to see. I just think if Auburn drops a hot steamer on them at the end of the year, there's gonna
God,
be
Nino, if Auburn drops a hot grumpy on Bama at the end of the year, then a lot of crazy stuff has happened and is going to happen. Which, I mean, listen, I wouldn't be pissed.
No, I know you would. I've been saying for a while, and it's nothing against
God,
Kalen
especially
DeBoer.
after last year, the last couple years where
Oof.
Auburn's played Bama at home, where we're
Oof.
like, you know what, the game, no, we don't want it. Here, you have it.
You can have it back.
Thanks for that 3.5 hours of giving me, lessening
Chance.
my lifespan.
So you're
just
telling
to
me there's
lose.
a chance? Nope.
Yeah,
not anymore.
and listen, I mean, my wife's won. I mean, she's from Tuscaloosa. I mean, hell, they've won 3 straight. We've been together 3 years. I mean, I got to get on the right side of this.
Oh, that must be rough couple of months during college football.
Well,
season.
it's like she understands, like, during that day, I love you. I love you so much. I chose to spend the rest of my life with you, but for this one day, maybe I
Go
won't
away.
shut the kitchen cabinets.
Yeah.
Do
I'm gonna leave
the
the
little
seat up
things that
today.
piss
All
you
right.
off around the house.
I'm leaving the seat up, and you're going for a
That's
dive.
exactly right. Oh no, I forgot
Oops.
to put. Oh, I put it in the fridge instead of the
Ah.
freezer. Oh man,
Your favorite ice
dang.
cream. My
No
fault.
more pizza rolls.
Oh, I love it. All right, Jake. I appreciate you coming on here. Give me a record. Before we go, give me your prediction for their record. I know it's early. I know you don't like to do this stuff before.
Well, the reason, and I'll give you one. I'm not. You can't hold me to it though, because it's not my, final.
I
prediction.
know, I
But
get
right
it.
now, what I'm feeling, because especially now with the transfer portal window, who the hell's going to be on the team?
Right.
2 months from now, who's going to win what job? Everybody that loses a job is going to transfer. So
Right.
we really don't, know who's going to be where, and then who's going to win what job in fall camp, who's going to get hurt. We see it every year. There's always some good surprises. There's always some bad surprises. I'm going to say right now, guessing a record, I'm going to say they start 5-0. Give me 8-4.
Oh boy. You know what? It's respectable. I can respect that at this
8-4, especially if it's the right 8.
Right.
Maybe
Yes.
there's there. Maybe there's a golden ticket to Wonka's factory in there.
You gotta give me some with some numbers on it, right? Like right before the team name has some numbers. Those will count a little more,
Yeah, for sure. Every win in the eyes of the fans, donors, and administration, they do not all weigh the same.
No, not at all. Not at all. People think so. A dub's a dub. No, it's not. My last thing before we close up the talk, we'll talk about Alabama real quick. I've been saying this for a while, and it's not a disrespect to Kalen DeBoer. I just do not think Kalen DeBoer lasts longer than Nick Saban's last class.
I think any prediction right now outside of Kalen DeBoer, they're not going to skip a beat. Like, I think that's just unrealistic and ridiculous. I think any prediction outside of that, you can make a logical argument. Like, it's again, it can go a lot of ways, but at Alabama, they are so used to winning, not just winning, but dominating.
Yes.
What happens when all of a sudden it's not going as good as it normally does, and you start to maybe feel, though I don't think they'll ever fall back to the mediocrity they were in for a while, but there's a lot of PTSD of fans that had to go through the dark ages with all the mics, then to the golden era. Now you're just hoping that the boy king can do close to as good.
Yeah.
You just hope he just doesn't start chopping people's head off, and when he gets pissed off.
Yeah, we don't want the anarchy. We can't have it. So.
No.
Jake, before we go, tell them where they can find you. And when's part 2 coming out?
Of Lady Ballers? Well, if you want to find me, just look outside your window at dinner time. No, I'm just kidding. It's look, we're easy to find. Go to YouTube. It's Crain and Company, CRAIN and Company. We're on Apple Podcasts, Spotify. We just had our, debuted our acting career in the movie Lady Ballers, the #1 streaming movie in the country for like a month and a half, which is just wild to think about. And we're actually going to Florida, going down to Gainesville to do an event to try and keep men out of women's sports, which, I don't even think it's political. I just think that's, smart and common sense. But yeah, there may be something coming down the road. I don't think maybe my acting career has not ceased. Yes. Yeah. I'm trying to be the Joker within 3 years. So that's my goal. Blaine wants to be Batman. I want to be the Joker.
Can you give us, because I've seen it already multiple times on the show when you get into the Joker mode. Can we get one?
You talking about like the Joker impression?
Yes.
Yeah. Well, it's like, if Alabama goes 8-4, people are going to lose their minds.
That is classic. That's my guy. I love you, buddy. I appreciate you coming on. Once again, CFB Nation, CFB Prime. Blow the damn whistle. We out.